I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan your own hands can land.
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
Yes, sir.
We got more than we can.
Already was high within San Antonio, Winchester community, but the age group is getting younger. Children under the age of 18 being murdered in San Antonio has a high peak right now. So our goal is to catch the children.
You going hard, man. You going hard on that man today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? You got manufacturing right here, helping our young people despite all of the challenges in the city of Baltimore, right here on North Avenue.
No, it's really about the growth. Just knowing being there when they were down in Fort Covington and seeing how far it's grown. Like you said earlier, like getting the Sorbet, well, we got the Sorbet at the beginning, but now being able to, when I'm at Camden Yards, get it, or anytime I'm down at Harbor Place to get it, and folks to not even know, but they gonna know now that like this is coming from young people in West Baltimore, right there in West Baltimore on North Avenue, where they think nothing great comes from, but they can see it with the young people.
If you work for it, it's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they
Here on the Miami, Mississippi, down right here in French Forward, Memphis. Beautiful town, just leaving Algiers, which is an update 10 years since Katrina. The news before. All right, y'all, this is what I came to New York for. Besides the Black Wall Street Awards, we're going ahead and get some of this real good jerk chicken. Johnny Glover, out.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me.
But we need to feed our loved ones. DOCS needs to rescind this package policy program so that our loved ones are able to eat every day in that filthy facility.
We have some stars in the building.
I feel like no one takes it.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Mr. Wayne Frazier. In 2002, he runs the Maryland, he and his wife Pat run the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association. It originated to advocate for minority and women construction trade contractors because so much work was being completed without the utilization of the said firms. 11 years later, in 2013, MWMCA evolved into what it is today. Well, it was initially Maryland Washington Minority Contractors. Now it's evolved into the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association, and it expanded its scope of work to include all types of companies, trade contractors, suppliers, service providers. MWMCA has a unique offering of services with one mission in mind, connecting large and small businesses to work together. At MWMCA, they tailor services to the client, whether it's small or prime. And yes, they have a core group of services that they offer, but they listen to their client to provide customized services for whatever they may need. He's been an advocate. I wanted to ask you a question, Wayne. Do you remember Doug Sands?
Yes. Reverend Doug Sands. He was a pastor of right across from my former Little League, Forest Park Little League, the church at Forest Park and Windsor Mill. Can't remember the name right now. But he was a longtime pastor there, and that's where I initially met him. And he was a very strong advocate for minority business. And this was back in the 90s, the early 90s. And that was significant of him, Bob Clay, Arnold Jolivet, and there was one other. But they were the first ones who I heard discuss anything at all about minority business inclusion, but particularly it was about Black business because they hailed from the Black communities, Black church. And so it was that their representation, along with the great Perrin Mitchell, Congressman Perrin Mitchell, who really kicked this all off. And that was on the federal side, but on the state side, it was our own Senator Larry Young. He was congressman. He was a delegate at the time, and he was involved with a brother down in Prince George's County by the name of Decatur Trotter. And the two of them in 1979, along with a willing governor at that time of Harry Hughes, introduced the first MBE legislation that produced a set aside at that time of 10%. Set aside since then have been ruled unconstitutional, and now we have but nothing but goal setting. But I digress. But Doug Sands was a part of that original group that ushered in inclusion for Black businesses.
Now, you telling me Larry Young advocated for Black businesses?
Yes.
I did not know that.
He was a delegate at the time. He hadn't become senator yet, and so you in the General Assembly you need a delegate to introduce a bill in the House, and a senator to introduce same or a corresponding bill in the Senate, and they did it together, and we were able to get Governor Hughes to sign it.
Now, back then, did you need a MBE certification?
Well, that was the beginning of MBE certification. Prior to that, there was nothing. It didn't exist. And so after that 1979 session, the Department of Transportation, which rules over MBE inclusion in the state, set up a agency. I believe it's called the Special Secretaries Task Force or something like that. It still exists through the Department of Transportation. There's 6 modes, that would become the 7th. And they have a special secretary or assistant secretary that oversees it. That's where the name was, our good friend, the sister that they let go. She was at a cop, and I can't remember her name right now.
Oh, Sabrina.
Sabrina did a superb job. And then when the Sabrina Bass, and when the Moore administration came to town, they cut her loose. But that was a political casualty, and that happens. But Sabrina, no shame in her game. She was number one. She was tough, but she was part of that group. She ran the group that provided certifications for businesses, but it started in 1979.
Do you think certifications are necessary?
Yes. Certifications are extremely necessary because the program was designed to help struggling minority-owned businesses. And at that time, minority-owned businesses consisted primarily of African-American Black businesses. The other ethnic and racial groups were not a part of it. they came along later, and women came along in 2001. But in order to determine if one owns at least 51% of the business, owns 51% of the business, and controls 100% of the business, certification is needed, because there are always folks lurking in their rear, providing support, financial support, or intellectual support. And especially under that financial support, because of that, they may secretly be running that business. Whereas with certification, one would have to produce documentation that they have equity in the business, that they own, as I said, 51% of the shares, and that they are the only signers on the commercial checking account, because that's where primarily all the funds are going to be going through, or at least originating through. And so that's why the certification part is important, to determine on paper who these individuals are.
How difficult is certification?
Well, if one is clean, certification is simple. Meaning, if one has no baggage in the background, nothing hidden on their bylaws, if it's a corporation, or their member operating agreement, if they're an LLC, and those are the most common organizations of business that are certified. So if one's documentation is clear, if one can show that the initial funding came from their own resources and not borrowed, or not an investment, then, and one can demonstrate that they have an intellectual understanding of their business and how it works, then one should be certified. Sure.
Does MWMCA help people get certified?
Sure, every day. And our biggest clients, even though we advocate for Black business, but our biggest clients are white women-owned businesses.
But doesn't that defeat the cause?
So that?
Doesn't that defeat the cause?
No, because by law, white women can be certified. They're part of the group. And Doni, we are not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit entity, and we have to generate revenue to keep it all going. So to assist them in getting certified, I would say I'm proud of that, because it just shows the magnitude of our intelligence and understanding of how the process works. And folk come to us seeking that. And I mean, I'm extremely proud of that, Doni, extremely. So no, we even helped an Egyptian, believe it or not, people from Egypt. There's only 2 countries in Africa that are considered, let's say, certifiable, and that's Nigeria and Liberia. All the rest of the countries where Africans come from, Black people come from, are not. And Egypt is a part of Africa, and they're not. However, in order to get certified, one would have to prove that they've been discriminated against some point in their life. Prove it. And this Egyptian fella, who happened to be Muslim, would break every day to pray. And as a result, he was fired from his job. And as a result, he had anecdotal proof that he was discriminated against. And as a result, after submitting his paperwork and arguing his position, we were successful in getting him certified.
How much does it cost?
Well, that ranges. It can range anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, depending upon the issues involved. And the longer one has been in business, there's more issues involved because you got a history. You got a lot of stuff that needs to be gone through. And we also provide coaching and teaching individuals, especially women. Women are there's this thought that there's always a good man behind some woman, and so the investigators, they believe that. So our job is, when women come, is to thoroughly interview them to see where they are knowledge-wise in their business, not just business, but in their business, and act as we're one of the investigators. Or when one gets certified in Maryland, they have to go through a a panel interview of up to 13 people that sit around this table, and they shoot questions at you while you're seeking to be certified in the interview. And so we assist them in understanding what is their prep, understanding what to expect. And in some cases, Donnie, we even recommend that they augment this with construction management courses or business management courses, and get certificates from community colleges to show that they have the understanding in the business. Where they might not have the experience, they have the understanding, and it works.
Well, I thought in the realm of MBE advocacy that there's this presumption that white women are really fronts for white men.
I said that. Sure. And in some cases, we have discovered that. And then we cut it off. We don't want to be a part of that. And in other cases, where we determine that woman, that white woman, is large and in charge, runs the show, then we move without haste to assist that process and get it done. But myself and my staff, we've been doing this for 15 years now. So we've seen a lot of different stories. So we pretty much understand. And we will not accept a client if there is that case, not just a perception, but if it's an actual reality that there is some man in the background lurking, running it, we walk away. We don't want to be tarnished that way. But we play by the rules, and the rules allow white women since 2001 to be certified and earn opportunities as a woman business enterprise.
Tell me about the burgeoning Latino community, the burgeoning Latino business community.
Well, Donnie, it's here, and it is only going to get stronger. And as opposed to fighting it, I've embraced it, especially in the construction ranks, because unfortunately, our young brothers don't want to get in the industry. Plenty of opportunities. I mean, there's more opportunities now than there's ever been. But I guess timing is everything. And they don't want to get engaged in construction or design. That's the engineering and architectural side. And the work has to be done. And there's more work now than ever. Everywhere you go in this country, there's something being built or rebuilt, designed and being built. And I think it's one of the best things about this country is the fact that we don't have a problem in tearing things down and starting over or developing on new ideas. These data centers that are being built all around the country are the fastest growing segment of construction in the country. These centers are several billion, some up to $10 billion because all of the technical requirements that are required. And the Latino firms are embracing it. I mean, they're embracing it from the grungy street construction of paving and paving streets and sidewalks with asphalt and concrete, to excavating and digging deep ditches, to underground construction of gas pipes and electrical conduits, to scaling heights on these towers. By the way, those guys make $100 an hour. To hanging out of helicopters, fixing high-powered electrical lines. Again, $150 an hour because of the risk of the job. To now, we're going to be building over at Trade Point Atlantic, which used to be Sparrows Point. We're going to be building these cylinders that will coat the windmills off Ocean City. There's going to be like 160 of those built over the next 10 years. So Latinos, I mean, they are in all of it. And we can't convince our young brothers and sisters to consider that. I mean, that's going to be some of the highest paying jobs in America. And so for me, I'm 72. I've tried to convince, I've spoken at Carver and Murbo and other schools that have trade curriculums. And it seems like they ain't interested. They ain't lost in space. And it's a damn shame because the opportunities are here now that have never been before. So my clients, because I said I'm a for-profit business, my clients are constantly looking for trade contractors and for labor, skilled labor. So my role is to source that. And that's what I do. I go hard and long searching for companies, for individuals who can provide talent for these many jobs that are coming about. I mean, you got the Key Bridge coming back. I mean, I venture to say there will be few Black folks working on there. And they're going to need a lot of welders because it's going to be a lot of steel work. Do you think folks would be jumping out, learning how to do that grungy kind of work? Nah. We're complacent, Donnie, and I hate to say it, but we are. We want to be on NFL Sunday or basketball NBA night, but we don't want to do the grungy work that the rest of us have to do. We just don't want to do it.
What happened to us?
I would say what happened to us is that we evolved after the civil rights, where we were denied equal this and equal that, and we became part of society. Then we abandoned that internal drive that we had to be the best. Because back in the day, we were always taught to be better, twice than a white person, in order to survive in this country. I don't know if that's still being taught. It's probably not. But that's what we were taught in the 60s. And these generations that have come after that have lost all of that. I think crack had a lot to do with it. The prevalence of drugs throughout our community had a lot to do with it. And again, we're followers and not leaders. We succumb to that. And it's just a shame, but that's what has happened to us.
Do you think we can get it back?
No, Donnie, we lost.
Now, I was told as long as there is life, there is hope.
Okay, well, maybe our governor can inspire them. He's an inspiring figure. Maybe he can do that. He's from their generation, but an old man like me, no, no. I'm just living until my last breath comes. But it would come from our younger leaders like Mayor Scott, like Governor Moore, like City Council President Mosby, young brothers like that would have to be the ones doing the inspiring. People like me, they call me pops now. They don't listen to me. So it would have to take the younger brothers to do. And see, I don't know if women can do that now. And I mean, it might be criticized for that, but I don't know if women can inspire black men to become the leaders that they once were, strong leaders. But right now, we're a bunch of weak people.
Every May, the Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association holds an annual breakfast at Martin's West. To my knowledge, it is the largest Black business event in the state of Maryland. You and your wife.
It might be. It might be to my knowledge as well, because I travel to events in Howard County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and Anne Arundel County, and those are your large. Oh, now you have Charles County coming, but I have not witnessed any single event like the second Friday in May spring breakfast. It's become somewhat like of a homecoming, where our Black contractors can come, reconnect, meet new folks. And the thing that I'm most proud of is months, sometimes years afterwards, folks come up to me and say, Wayne, we really appreciate you hosting that event as well as the others, because I met such and such. And as a result, I won a $10 million job. I'm saying, son of a gun, why you wait so long to tell me? But it's just refreshing to know that the connections are being made, and the major primes and major businesses that come for that purpose, so that they can find that next trading partner to work with. And so I'm pleased with it. And again, about the size, I have not experienced another event. But Doni, this is our 21st year of doing it. So it perpetuates and gets larger each year. When I think that perhaps the relevance of it is no longer there, I'm fooled. Each year it gets bigger and bigger. I wish we had a bigger facility than Martin's West. But other than that, you have the what do you call it, the convention center. But see, the convention center is union backed, so you got to pay like double the price that you would pay at Martin's West. And we still have to survive. I got employees I have to pay, so we chose to stay at Martin's West. And by the way, Martin's West is larger than the Live Casino Hall event center. So it's the largest, other than Convention Center, downtown Baltimore. It's the largest event center in the greater Baltimore region. And that's why we have it at Martin's.
I met Sugar Ray Leonard there.
Sugar Ray is a dear friend, and we supported him way back when he came back from the '76 Olympics and his first major fight in Baltimore. And I was at Harbor Bank at the time, and a bunch of my board members financially backed him. Believe it or not, only $10,000. Can you believe that?
Was that Luis Vega?
No, that was John Padarakis and Louis.
No. Who he won against?
Oh, I can't remember that. I can't remember. But the Civic Center was sold out. It was packed.
My dad took me. I saw him down at the Civic Center.
Okay, all right. And so we've known Sugar for a long time, and then that year he had started a new business in Palmer Park. That's where he's from. And so his people asked, well, Wayne, could you provide some recognition for him? I said, sure, Sugar Ray Leonard. Who wouldn't? And so what made me so pleased was at that event, we had a couple of our major unions, building trade unions. They were there and they had their bosses, and their bosses, Italian guys, big, struggling looking guys. And they came up and they wanted to get their pictures with Sugar Ray Leonard. And prior to that, they didn't want to have nothing to do with me. So it was just odd. And I didn't even know they were in the audience. But when they found out Sugar was there, they came up and act like they was my buddy. But Sugar launched the business, and then unfortunately he didn't stick to it. The business folded. But that was that year, Sugar Ray Leonard.
All right, so this is baseball season. I'm a huge baseball, more so than a fan. I enjoy playing the game, and I did a little pitching. So I'm getting ready to throw you a couple curveballs just to keep it interesting, okay? You ready?
Yes.
Batter up. Who's been your favorite governor over the past 20 years, and why?
Donnie, I can't say any of them have been my favorite. I was a banker until year 2002. And so I pretty much stayed out of politics. But in 2002, I jumped out and remade myself. And so at that point, I said, well, Wayne, you got to make a splash. You got to make people like you and hate you at the same time. So I backed Bob Ehrlich, and I became his president or chairman of Democrats for Ehrlich, and Ehrlich won. But a year in, I got to see how it all worked along with him and Steele. And I said, these son of a guns are playing my ass. So I said, screw them, and cut them loose. And then 3 years later, O'Malley says he's going to run. And his people gave me a call and said, Wayne, would you assist us in supporting O'Malley? I said, hell, I ain't got no place else to go. So, yeah. So I jumped over and we supported O'Malley. And then I never forget this on WEAA. No, it was on Larry Young's show back then. They brought me on along with Billy Murphy, and I was to debate Billy Murphy on the virtues of Martin O'Malley and him on the virtues of Ehrlich. And because he was still an Ehrlich guy. I never forget, they let me go first, and I did a Trump move on him. I started to attack, and we never gave Billy a chance to speak. And so the time was up. And so who goes on and wins the election was O'Malley. And then when O'Malley was in office, he screwed us around. And so I had to protest against him in office. And it was a contract down at the airport. He was going to award transportation. All these brothers we got in this town that got cabs and this and that and trucks and vans. And he wanted to give it to an Iranian group. I said, hell no. I said that in one of his sessions. And Peter Francho and the Treasurer Kopp, they voted with me. So they made O'Malley look stupid. And we end up turning it around, and 10 individual black transportation companies won a contract with that. We had them break it up. So at that point, then Malley was through with me because I made him look silly. And he was silly. He was taking their money and he wasn't doing a damn thing for us. And so the next time, what's his name came on board, I went with Anthony Brown, and Anthony Brown got whipped by Hogan. And so my strategy with Hogan was, well, Wayne, he's going to be there maybe for the next 2 terms. Get to know him. So I honored him one year at the spring breakfast, got to know him, and 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 the surprising thing with Hogan though is that I had very few times that I had to go down to the Board of Public Works to protest because he seemed to get it right. He made sure that black folks were a part of deals. He did. And because I never got a call in his 8 years to come down and protest any of his decisions or potential decisions. And then this new governor, I mean, he's a likable guy, but he's lost. He's lost in his understanding of moving black business along. Um, there are so many incidents that happened in his first 2 years. I It wouldn't be enough time to discuss the individual incidents where we pointed out to him this would elevate a black company, um, and it's in your authority to assist without it being seen as him showing preference, because you never want to be seen as showing preference with anything. But it was just following Maryland's MBE rules over there with the Maryland Stadium Authority. He is yet to have and they do most of the major procurement for school construction, all the stadium construction, and now they're going to be getting involved in demolition in Baltimore City. And they have never selected a black or African American prime to lead any of the jobs, nor have they had a black or African American design company. That's an architectural engineering firm to lead any of the projects. They proud that, we're getting minority, but that's fine. But we want you to go above and beyond. Bring in and there are 3 or 4 major firms that can do up to $100 million project. But to this date, they haven't even made the cut because they do the pre-screening ahead of time. They have not made the cut to be considered for any of the major projects. That's a shame. And see, that's something that Governor Moore could do by talking to his chair of the Stadium Authority, Craig Thompson. Hey, Craig, man, we need to change this. Hasn't been done. Hasn't been. And you got all this school construction that's coming around, and the Maryland Stadium Authority is going to run that. So Governor Moore, it's handed to you, buddy. It's handed to you. You make great speeches, but let's whip your agencies and have them do more on the prime side, because that's where the big money is, because you get to call the shots. And these companies can get the bonding, Donnie. They can also have the commercial liability coverage to cover them. So it's no excuse that they can't financially do these things, because it's there. It's there. So that's my take on governors. Since I've been involved, I can say that they've been okay, but none of them hit the ball out the park. None of them.
Okay, that was a curveball. Here's the knuckleball. What was the impact of a mayor for life, Marion Barry?
Well, to my knowledge, he changed the culture in D.C. way back, and he made 3 or 4 brothers and sisters super rich in the process. Just by him, I imagine it was through executive orders in D.C., where he changed the philosophy, the practices of doing business, and ensuring that Black folks were a part of every facet of that DC government had control of or had some sort of connection to. The brother Peoples, Don Peoples, became a multi-millionaire developer. And then you had, what's her name? The radio woman.
Kathy.
Yeah, Kathy Hughes.
Kathy.
How she just took it and ascended to head of her TV empire now. And I believe there's a few more.
Bob Johnson, BET.
Bob Johnson with BET, right? So, other than the guy in Atlanta and Hartsfield, what's his name? The mayor there.
Jackson.
Yeah, I don't think that there's been any other black mayor that have been that forceful in bringing us along in a economic way.
What about Baltimore? Baltimore mayors.
Well,
who has gotten it?
I would say out of all, the one who had the most effect was Kurt Schmoke. From the pure standpoint of housing, by imploding all of the high rises and then coming back with more decent, affordable housing. I think he would be the one that would have the most, during my time, the most contributions to the city.
Certainly no scandal.
Right. No, Smoke. Kurt was a clean brother, but he had Danny Henson and he had Larry Gibson, two of the best, as his right and left. And then he had little sister was his chief of staff. I can't remember her name.
Lynette Young.
Lynette Young. She whipped them, baby. I used to attend those cabinet meetings when I was part of his cabinet, and man, you had to. She would crack the whip, and you would know it. But I respected her for that, and it was just a great time. I think economically, Donnie. I can't speak of all the other stuff, but economically.
What's happened to our mayors since then? And we don't have to name names, but why haven't they been able to keep the standard of a Kurt Schmoke? I mean, it's been scandal after scandal. The one thing about Brandon, no scandal. I mean, there's always that question about safe streets, but his hand has not been caught in any cookie jar. No sticky fingers. Stephanie was clean, but she had a riot.
Yeah, but it's just that Schmoke inspired me. The rest of them, including Jack, Young, Pugh, and even Brandon, I like them, but they don't inspire me. I mean, maybe it's because I'm 72 years old and it would take a lot to inspire me. But
Brandon did give the Harbor Project to David Bramble.
Well, he had no choice. What else? It was no other alternative. Something had to be done. And by the way, I endorse what Bramble's doing. But that was a layup. That was the easy thing. Again,
he did it though. He did. It doesn't always happen, and he's taken flack for David. I mean, David has been criticized because of his plans, but he's a nationally recognized developer.
I mean, he's the best we have. He's the best that we have. I just saw he just bought a $67 million shopping center out in some port in California. I mean, they just keep announcing project after project after project. And see, he's got his partners who are able to help him raise these funds to make these acquisitions. I understand that Steve Machadi is involved, the owner of the Ravens is involved in the ultimate financing of Harbor Place up to the tune of $450 million. That's huge. And it's huge that the brother and that Machadi is open to doing business with black people too. Because most of these rich owners, they don't care about doing no business with no black people. I know the Orioles don't do no business with no black people. And the Ravens do a lot of business with black people. But
Schmoke is part owner of the Orioles.
Well, he must be a very silent owner, because I've challenged him already. Show me who you doing business with. I ain't heard nothing back. Nothing. The Ravens, they gave me a 10-point play of who they doing business with, and it's significant business. The Orioles, but I forget your question, but so let's go into the next question.
Well, tell me about this Senate race.
Here in the state,
Yeah.
I think we got the wrong person running against Hogan. I think Hogan is well liked. A lot of black people like him, and
Damn right.
and also Brooks is not well known outside of Prince George's County, and I think Hogan stands an excellent chance in winning the election. I don't want his butt to win. I don't want any Republicans to win anything. Anything. Republicans, this MAGNA era, he bad for our country, bad for the world, because their intentions are mean-spirited and bad. But in Hogan, he should just be a Democrat. All of the things he's running on now. I mean, he come out the other day, he for women's rights. Him son of a gun. Republicans ain't for no women's rights. So he's fooling us like Trump. He's fooling us. And he will vote along the party line if he's elected. He will vote along the Republican Party line if elected. And I think he stands a very good chance of being elected. And it would be a disgrace to the state of Maryland to send that son of a gun to Washington. A disgrace.
Tell me about your trips to Annapolis to the Board of Public Works.
Well, it's been a while. Like I said, I didn't have to go anytime during Hogan's time. But that don't mean he wasn't doing anything that was improper. Most of the time when I got invited is by those who were injured parties who believed that they were being disadvantaged. And each time I proved that they were correct in their assumptions. But not much happened. As I said, not at all.
Well, let me rephrase the question. What is the significance of us showing up in Annapolis, of black people showing up in Annapolis?
Well, if it's during the General Assembly, because that's when they all assembled, that 90-day session, I think it's significant because, you know, the majority of the senators and representatives or delegates are white. So to see numbers of black folks show up, it can be intimidating. And so that for that reason alone, just the sheer numbers speaks loudly that, hey, we are supporting something or we are against something. That's significant. That's significant.
Why do you make it your business to know the politicians?
Say that again.
Why do you make it your business to know the politicians?
Because in business, rules are made there with the politicians, whether it's in Annapolis or at the council level at the city or in the county. The rules are made there. And so knowing politicians are the ones who are going to either introduce a bill or support a bill or work against a bill. So it's just important to know them and be able to at least call them and say, hey, you know, this is going to hurt minority business. And so I'm never there at the General Assembly advocating for a particular black business, but I do attend the Board of Public Works, which is not the General Assembly, to advocate for a single black business. But during the General Assembly, never do that. I'm always representing the masses of Black businesses. And so it's important that that they understand that their votes have 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 a meaning. And so if you're not going to vote with us when we need you, then we're going to let folks know that you're not with us.
Tell me the significance of Senator Barbara Robinson.
Well, she started out as a delegate, and prior to that, she was an entrepreneur, and she had a colorful life. So she understood what Black businesses went through because she went through it. And then I could explain to her a situation. For example, prior to her, all nonprofits in the state of Maryland had equal preference in the minority business set aside program. They were seen, they had the same juice as any Black owned business or Hispanic owned business. They could be hired and given a preference, a 5% or 5 points lower preference, and win a freaking contract over a legitimate business that was owned. See, a nonprofit is not individually owned. It's owned by wherever, but it's not an individual who has at least 51% ownership. And so the state sometime during Schaefer's time gave nonprofits the same stake as minority business. Well, I pointed that out to Senator Robinson at the time, and she said, "Oh no, it's not right." And so each year for like 3 years, we presented it to the General Assembly, and it got no traction. But then this final year, we got all of them to vote unanimously to overturn that, and they removed nonprofits out of the MBE program. The biggest nonprofit is a group called Chimes. You might have seen them. They have disabled people cleaning various bus stops, working down at the airport and so forth. We have nothing against disabled people, but our same companies could hire those disabled people that are with Chimes to do the work. Why give it to the nonprofit and let one of the nonprofit, not one, 3 of their nonprofit owners, their CEOs are earning over $1 million a year. Hell, I don't know no Black-owned business owner in the MBE program. They earn over $100,000 a year because it's that hard. It's that hard, but you're going to give that. So she saw that, and she convinced for 3 years. She convinced them till finally wore them down, and we got them removed. That is the Barbara Robinson and there were other opportunities, can't come to mind right now, that she worked on with us. So I would give her the highest of marks.
Who is Arnold Jolivet?
Arnold Jolivet is an icon in the state of Maryland and back in his hometown of Houston, Texas. But I was told he was born in the Shreveport, Louisiana area, and they family matriculated to Houston, and then that's where they are now. But I met Arnold in 1999, and he convinced me once I left the Schmoke administration that I should purchase his business, because he was elevated to the National Association of Minority Contractors as their president in DC. And so he sold me his Maryland Washington Minority Contractors Association for $1. And that was in 2001. And he was my confidant. He was my advisor, my mentor. And at one point, he became my adversary, him and Bob Clay, because I began to get some notoriety and they didn't like it. Oh, tell the other one who was hating on me too was your boy, the attorney, Bob the Shields. And so they all started hating on me. But then Arnold saw, man, that was petty. He came back and we formed a solid Batman Robin duel, and Arnold would go in and kick ass and take names, and I would come in and say, "Oh, okay, it's okay, it's okay. Let's work it out. Let's work it out." And so, or I would go in and kick ass and take names, and then he would come, "Hey, let's work this thing out." So it worked well. And since his demise, I haven't located anyone who I would comfortable with in working situations like that. But Arnold was a true fighter for the people. He has a son surviving him who is now down at the University of Maryland Medical Systems in their MBE capacity there. But there was no one like Arnold Jalabert. No one.
I think it would be good to end this interview with asking you one final question. Who is Pat Frazier?
That is my beautiful bride. We've been together. It's our 23rd year of marriage, and she is the COO and the CFO of Maryland, Washington Minority Companies. Without Pat Frazier, none of whatever you see us do would happen, because I'm just the face, but she is the rock behind it. She manages our employees. She handles all of the financial situations here. She does it all. Oh, she handles our website, our weekly newsletter, any communications out to the people, she takes care of. God forbid, if something happened to her, MWMCA would cease to exist with Wayne Frazier. I would have to sell it at that point, because I could not do it on my own. Couldn't, nor would I want to. It's a fun relationship. I mean, to work with your wife, yeah, there's a lot of compromising, both ways. She has to compromise with putting up with me and my bullshit. But it's the greatest reward in my life to this date, in working with my spouse in business. It trumps all of that stuff that I did in the past in the banking arena and the financing arena. It's a joy to kiss her at night and smack her on the butt in the morning, waking up. It's just a joy.
I'm down at the Pratt tomorrow at 6:45 p.m. This is my latest book, Journalpreneur. I go into the intersection of journalism and entrepreneurship. I discuss the 22 years of BeMoreNews.com and now Black USA. So come on down to the Pratt tomorrow. I'm giving away copies of my book.
What time?
6:45 p.m. Enoch Pratt Central. Great opportunity.
Well, if you send me something, I'll put it out on my LinkedIn too page. I'll drum it up. But yes, I'll come down. I'll be there.
Any final thoughts as we close out?
My biggest concern today is November 5th. Where will our country go if Trump is reelected? That's why we have to work extremely hard to keep him from retaining that office. He is the worst that this country has produced. And the sad part is that 75 million people in this country see it his way. That's the sad part. And now that I live in Florida, I got neighbors galore that love Trump. And that's a sickening part. That's the most sickening part of being in Florida, knowing that my neighbors love that SOB. That's my final thought.
The one and only Wayne Frazier, President and CEO of Maryland Washington Minority Companies Association. Big ups to his wife, Pat. Together, they celebrate a lot of Black businesses and other minorities, including Latinos, and Egyptians, and legitimate white women who are not fronts for white men.
Right. We make sure of that. Yes.
He's unapologetic. He's a little calmer today than he's been in years past. He has been ferocious, unbridled, outspoken, and he's a fighter for the people. Thank you for joining us, Wayne Frazier.
Big ups. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Do today and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother's keeper. Good morning, world.